happy Friday to you, wherever you are in this world. Hopefully you're having a beautiful, beautiful Friday. It's been a very eventful Friday for me, but it's all good. It's all good. So that's the report. We'll talk about that a little later. Yeah. So that's the thing. When you work cases, you have to. Sometimes the cases are rough, and sometimes they take a long time. When you're able to work the cases and you get it completed within 4 hours, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. So, but anyway, so we're here, and I appreciate you guys being here too. Happy Friday to you. A couple of things before we get into the presentation. I want you to go to our websites to folks who sponsor our shows, and that's KGRADB Radio. So go to KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. And make sure you subscribe there. But put Bishop as your promo code, because you're going to get 30% off your subscription. Nope, I do not. For the hater gators out there that's already going to say something, I'd receive no compensation whatsoever for telling you to put Bishop as your promo code. And even if I did, it's none of anyone's business, but I don't. So there. You can go to kgradb.com. And that's what you can do. kgradb.com. Sub chat only. Goodbye, trolls. And that's what you need to check out. And make sure that you put Bishop as your promo code. Seriously, they have it. By the way, that's a great idea for for a Christmas present. Somebody who loves the paranormal, supernatural, unexplained. That's a fantastic opportunity. So kgradb.com. Now, if you want to go to my website, it's bishopjameslong.com. I do teach classes. The classes are free. They're 100% online. They don't cost you a penny. A lot of work went into those classes. That was just my response to the trolls. So I decided to make them for free. Well, that's, what I do. Anyway, so just go to bishopjameslong.com and you can click on the class link. If you do that, you're going to learn about demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's a really in-depth course. And when you take the classes and you take tests, you can also get certificates. Again, all free. I pay for all the certificates. For every certificate that's printed, every certificate that's administered, I pay for it out of my own pocket. Don't charge a penny. So anyway, that's there for you. And so please take advantage of that, because it's something that, education is important. This is one of the reasons why I went for my Master's of Education, and I achieved it, which was very important for me, because I believe in teaching. Because when you're able to acquire knowledge and even experience, and you're able to pass on that knowledge, that experience to other people, that's a legacy. That's a beautiful legacy, and we need more people who are willing to do that. And so this is why I'm so passionate about teaching about what I've learned, whether it's theology, paranormal, or demonology. It's important. So anyway, it's all free. Now, if you want to go to the church's website, that's usocc.org. All right. All the information is there about my faith, our faith, and the community, and who we are. I want to remind all of you that we do have night prayer at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And by the way, Monday through Friday, we have night prayer. Every single Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. It's open to everybody. We start at 9:45 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker, and then we go live on TikTok at 9:50 p.m. Eastern. You don't need anything. Everything's provided for you. Just show up. We want to pray for you. There's a lot of people who are going through a lot of stress and anxieties in life. So we just want to, spend some time and pray with you guys. And then I want to remind everybody that tomorrow we have open mic night. And so that's where I bring the moderators on after Judy Ann and Miss Wilma come on for 30 minutes. We tell jokes. We put a smile on your face. We just try to kind of calm the anxiety down. And then the moderators come on and, you get introduced and interact with the moderators there on TikTok. And then, of course, that's Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then Sundays and Wednesdays, we have Bible study every Sunday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. I'm going to remind everybody, next week, we know it's Christmas. So next Tuesday is Christmas Eve. I will be here on Spreaker, and I will be here on TikTok for night prayer at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard, even on Christmas Eve. Christmas Day is next Wednesday. I will be here for Bible study. So I'm not going to miss either Bible study or night prayer. And neither of I think Judy Ann's praying with me next week. So we'll be here. Because we know a lot of people may not have family members, to celebrate Christmas with. Perhaps maybe they've passed on, or they're estranged, or who knows? I mean, there's so many things, and a lot of people are alone. So this time of the year, we want to remind you that you're not alone. And you have a community with us that doesn't judge people. We don't condemn people. That's not our vibe. It's not what we do. It's not what we believe in. We believe in lifting each other up, not tearing each other down, because God knows we have enough of that as it is in this world, truly. So we're going to be here next week. And yep, we will be here on next Friday. So I will be here next Friday too. I don't take off. Now, New Year's Eve is the 31st. I will have night prayer at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. New Year's Day is Wednesday, January 1st, and I will be here for Bible study and night prayer. Okay, so the only time I'm taking off is when I cannot physically do it because I'm working a case or I'm out of town and I don't have the technology with me. That's the only time I'll cancel. Tonight we have a really cool show, everybody. I'm so excited. I am truly, I'm so honored that this gentleman said yes again. So that's good. I mean, last week I had him on, thanks to our executive Mr. Producer, who is behind the scenes, Bill. And so apparently I didn't mess it up too much last week. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So apparently it went pretty well. But you know what? The thing is we had him on last week, Stanley Milford Jr., and we didn't even get to 80% of the questions that I had. I had like 50 questions that I wrote down, 50. And I think we got to like 7. So we have lots of very, very cool. And by the way, you guys, I want you guys to also jump in and ask some questions. Okay. So TikTok, I may open it up for everybody. Just be kind. That's all I ask. So subscribers, right now it's subscribers only for the first half hour. Afterwards, I'll open it up. We'll see how it goes. For those of you who are wondering why I have subscriber chat only on right now on TikTok, because of the trolls. They just won't stop. So that's the only way you can control it. So tonight, we are welcoming back a very special guest, Stanley Milford Jr., who is a prominent figure known for his unique experiences as a Navajo Ranger and his investigations in the paranormal. So he was born and raised in Oklahoma, and he has a rich heritage that includes both Navajo and Cherokee ancestry. And we talked about this last week, but I'm going to give the bio again for those of you who missed the show last week. Milford's career as a Navajo Ranger spanned over 23 years, during which he was involved in various law enforcement duties, search and rescue operations, protection of archaeological sites with the expansive Navajo Nation. And in 2000, Milford and his colleague Jonathan Dover were assigned to investigate unusual occurrences reported by residents, including sightings of Bigfoot, UFOs, and other supernatural phenomena. Now, these investigations not only challenge his understanding of the world, but also deepen his connection to Navajo culture and traditions. So Milford's experiences are documented in his phenomenal book, which we talked about last week, The Paranormal Ranger, the Navajo Investigators' Search for the Unexplained. Folks, please get the book. You can go to Amazon and get it and give it to somebody who loves the paranormal. They're going to love this book. I bought it. It is phenomenal. Very rarely will I tell you about a book and push it unless I think it's really good. This is a really good book. The Paranormal Ranger. That's what it's called. Navajo's Investigators Search for the Unexplained. So the book talks about his personal experiences with Navajo creation stories, which we're going to get to tonight, offering readers a glimpse into the intersection of traditional beliefs and modern paranormal investigations. So Milford's insights into the paranormal, they're shaped by his unique position as both a law enforcement officer, which we thank him very much, and all of you who are first responders, thank you. And a member of the Navajo community, allowing him to navigate the complexities of cultural beliefs while addressing the mysteries of the unexplained. So he currently resides in New Mexico, where he continues to share his stories and knowledge through writing and public speaking engagements. And I sincerely thank him once again for his willingness to jump on the show tonight and talk to us about his personal life experiences. So hello there. How are you there, Stanley?
I'm here and I'm great. I'm doing well.
Well, I want to thank you.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate your willingness to jump on with us again. And like I said,
Sure.
Apparently I didn't mess it up too badly last week, right? So
it was good.
It was good. It was a great conversation. For those of you, first of all, let me just say this. I think it's very important to understand cultural awareness and diversity. My grandmother and my grandfather were both Cherokee. And so I absolutely love learning about my own, my own ancestry. Unfortunately, I didn't realize, I think the enormity of it until after, later on in life. When you get into your 40s and your 50s, you begin thinking about at least I did. I began thinking more and more about my ancestry and where do I come from. And, and that's why, to me, I think it's wonderful to have, you on and talking about certainly this culture. And so let's briefly tell everybody about you growing up and in your own words, your own bio growing up and what you experienced, and then we'll get into the questions.
Okay, so my father had traveled to Oklahoma from Arizona to get his teaching degree, and he was attending what's known as Northeastern State. At the time, it was college. Today, it's a university. But that college or university is located in the town of Tahlequah, which is the capital of Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. And that's where my mother was from. So they met, and soon after, they came back to where he was from in Arizona to start their family. And so later, my sister was born, Deborah, who is 5 years older than me. And we lived there in Arizona and about the Navajo Reservation for a while when my father was actually working in the boarding schools on the reservation teaching. So within about 2 years after I was born, my mother and father began having marital issues, and my mother ended up taking me and my older sister back to Oklahoma to raise us there where she was from. And so we went through the schools, schooling there in Oklahoma, from grade school and elementary school into junior high and high school, and graduated high school. And so my father would fly me and my sister back out from the airport there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was nearby, to Albuquerque, and each summer or most summers, and we would spend time with our Navajo relatives on the Navajo Reservation and around my father. So we were, at the time, we still had great grandparents on our Navajo side that taught me and my sister aspects of the culture, and all of my aunts and uncles and my other grandparents teaching us things about being Navajo. And yeah, it was a very really diverse childhood growing up. In Oklahoma, where my mother was from, I was able to spend a lot of time with my older cousin Russell Jean, or Rusty Stacy, and he was about a year older than me, and his parents ran a large cattle ranch in Oklahoma, several thousand acres, and me and Rusty used to ride all over that ranch on motorcycles or dirt bikes, and playing cops and robbers at the age of about 9 or 10, and so one of the influences for law enforcement was watching the TV series Starsky and Hutch and things like that, and Adam 12 and Dragnet and these kind of shows.
Sure.
And so I think that kind of fueled my drive to want to be in law enforcement. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And for those of you who also in New Jersey, I'm going to be at the Clark Holiday Inn in New Jersey on January 25th. So we'll talk about that later on after, of course, after our interview. I have a question. Someone asked me a question last week that we really didn't get to because it's kind of more of I think a very personal question. And so I don't normally ask it unless someone volunteers it. But the question that someone asked was, what is your faith?
What is my faith?
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a strong spirituality,
mm-hmm.
first of all, from the time I was a child. I was influenced by various churches and religions of different family members, and my father growing up. My father at times was participating in the Catholic Church, and then other churches there on the Navajo Reservation. And then in Oklahoma, there was a variety of different religions and churches that had influence on me. My grandmother was very steeped in the Bible, but mm-hmm. she very rarely that I know of would actually be attending church. Maybe on occasion going to an actual church and stuff. So there was a lot of influences, but for me, there was an underlying spirituality that I had from the time I was a child. So
I mean, I guess instead of denomination, I guess the question that they specifically ask is, are you Christian? Are you atheist, agnostic, or just simply non, I guess, definition? Or how would you, I think that was more.
I would say probably non-denominational, in that growing up between those various cultures, mm-hmm. so to speak, from the Navajo and in Oklahoma, you had your traditional teachings within the Navajo culture and being influenced by those traditions, but also, like I said, some influences by various denominations and stuff. So it was just kind of a mix of different things. And
okay.
For me, I don't align. I think having been involved in these investigations, it's kind of opened my eyes to a larger kind of a unilateral view of spirituality and religion. And so, yeah, I do have a strong faith in the Creator, God, or what people in Christianity would refer to as God. But anyway.
I think it's a fair, because when someone asked me that, they didn't want to be offensive at all, but because I think there's such a I think a discriminative ideology out there that thank you, Shirley, that people who are Native Americans, and there are some who still believe this, that every single Native American out there are all pagans, and that's simply not true, folks.
Right.
That really is, and that's discrimination, and that's not true. My grandfather, my grandmother were very devout Christians. So I think this is so important to also talk about cultural awareness and being culturally sensitive to to people out there. So for those of you yep.
You have to realize that the Navajo Reservation is 27,000 square miles, and at the time of westward expansion and assimilation, the various churches divided up the Navajo Reservation into, according to John, spheres of influence. And so each of the different denominations would have areas where they would be setting up their churches. And so that had a huge influence on the Navajo culture itself. And so from those times, these churches have flourished and have grown, throughout the reservation.
Sure.
And there are a lot of different denominations and a lot of different churches that are represented within that entire Navajo Reservation area.
And that's so important. I think, again, I love culture, learning about different cultures and being sensitive and respectful about different cultures. I just think it's so important. By the way, for those of you just tuning in, so I'm Bishop Long. We are interviewing our new friend, Stanley Milford Jr. This is part 2. This is live. Last week, we had him on as a special guest, but there were so many questions we didn't even get to. And so we would like to do so today. And then you guys will also open the floor open for you guys just a little bit later, for your questions. But I have to ask you, so can you explain the connection between the Navajo emergence, the creation story, if you will, and the paranormal and supernatural?
Well, if you will look at the various creation, and the term that's often used is creation myth, but around the globe, going back, the earliest versions of the creation story or creation myth or emergent story, comes from the Sumerian peoples, and around the globe there are various creation stories that come from Africa and the Americas and Mesoamerica and North America, South America, East Asia, Central Asia, Indian continent, and Europe, and Pacific Islands and the Middle East, so these various religions have their own version of that, even with the Bible having Genesis, and a version of a creation story where man comes into the world or the universe from nothingness. But anyway, with this, in looking at the Navajo creation story, with John and I having conducted these investigations, and not one specific type of paranormal or one specific type of phenomena, there was a wide range of different things. It could be haunting related things, with what people refer to as spirits or ghosts, and then you had the phenomenon attached and related to witchcraft, and the entity people refer to as Bigfoot and extraterrestrial. You had a lot of different types of phenomenon that were being represented in these investigations, and the commonality began to present itself that, like, there was a case that I investigated that involved a haunting, and there were coins that would appear or apport from nothingness, out of nothingness, out of the thin air. And I witnessed this phenomenon And I think when you witness it firsthand, that really changes your worldview and your view of the universe. And for me and John, it cemented an idea that there were other dimensions and other realities that were overlapping or overlaying each other within our physical world. We would have activity from spirits that would manifest and make themselves known, and then all of a sudden, whatever this phenomenon was that presented itself, it would go back to where it originated. And this observing that and seeing things like UFOs in our physical world, seeing the entity that people call Bigfoot, these things would be in our physical world. They would manifest in our physical world. People would witness these things. Sometimes they would leave evidence of foot track and hair evidence in the Bigfoot cases, and then they would disappear, and people would be running around wondering, where did it go? Where did it go? And it would be gone. And so with most cultures and most religions, there's the idea that people have a soul or energy or life force, a chi, so to speak, and when a person is living, this is their life force. That's what allows them to have consciousness and to be able to move and physically do things. And at the point that we succumb to leaving our body, or death, as it's often referred to, then that spirit goes elsewhere and leaves the body, leaves this plane, but it goes somewhere else. And so in the creation story, there's references to other types of beings, so to speak, or entities. You might have a description of a being having like a human body in its description, yet with maybe an insect-like head or face, and so John and I began looking at this and thinking there's a parallels that can be drawn to these entities and what is referred to as extraterrestrials in their description and stuff, and that maybe what was referred to in the creation stories is actually a description of other dimensions, and even within religious texts of craft and beings and these other entities that people encounter.
So the Sumerian creation story is something that you have studied extensively?
I think, at the time that we began formulating these ideas, there was an intense look into different cultures, looking at things like the Mayans and the Popol Vuh and all of these different things to come to a conclusion that there may be some type of correlation in these creation stories or creation myths, so to speak.
Well, of course, in Scripture, it's dramatically different because you're talking about monotheism. So it's one God, whereas the Sumerian tablets, you have primarily the two gods of Apsu, which is fresh water, and Tiamat, which is representing salt water and chaos. And they gave birth to younger deities. So do you think the younger deities then are you saying that the younger deities from the Apsu and Tiamat are like Bigfoot and things of this nature?
Well, there's often those kind of suggestions by people who follow certain religions. And for me, I'm not judgmental in that.
No.
I think that people have their own views and own experiences of those kind of things. And so,
because some people have said that Bigfoot is kind of like a deity,
right.
Because there's a lot of people, actually, there's even cultures that worship and acknowledge Bigfoot, if you will, there's references even to the Hebrew Bible of Cain and Abel, and that what people refer to as Bigfoot is actually one of those two that survived, that is living and is more or less cursed to walk the world or the earth. I don't know. I mean, there is all of these possibilities. I think, it's a matter of being open-minded and what if, Sure.
And the possibilities could be really endless. And,
because even from Bigfoot, people from from cultures and and of course they talk about giants, but we can now. There's always debate as far as what the terminology actually means versus giants, because when you talk about giant, it's so subjective, isn't it? Because, for example, I remember as a boy, I went to a wrestling show and I saw Andre the Giant. Now, he was a giant. I mean, he was a giant. But some people would say, well, he's just a big man. Some people think of a giant as 20 feet tall, whereas other people would think Andre the Giant would be a giant. So it is so subjective. I have a question now, and I'm kind of curious. So you're a paranormal ranger. You're in law enforcement. So what in the world brought you or drove you to pursue the paranormal?
Well, I began having some paranormal experiences when I was younger. One of the earliest ones was when I was in my teenage years. My mother and stepfather would be out on the road doing long haul truck driving at times, and I'd be looking after my sister. And I was in my latter teens, and one evening she and I were home, and we were watching TV in the front room of my mother's home, and the house was dark at the time. The only thing that was on was the TV, so there was no lamps or anything that I can recall being on. And I happened to, something drew my attention through one of the other rooms and down toward the kitchen, and it was a blue glow. And so I got up off the couch and I went through the other room and into the kitchen. And as I stepped into the kitchen, all 4 burners on that range stove were turned on. And this was an older type of range where the knobs on the front were these large knobs that you really had to crank to turn the knobs, and it required an actual external source of ignition, like a match, wooden match, or a lighter or something to light those burners. But all 4 of the burners were lit, and I hadn't done it, and my younger sister wasn't. She didn't mess with the stove. She didn't cook at her age and mess with the stove, and I hadn't done it. We were the only ones home. I stood there for a few moments, my brain trying to wrap around how this had come to be. And the only thing that I could think of was that someone had come in and had actually lit that stove. And so the thought that there was an intruder in the home, and I went and retrieved my mom's shotgun and went through the lower part of the house and checked even in the garage, and everything was secure. And I went upstairs and cleared all the rooms up there, the closets and under the beds, and there was nobody there. There was nobody present, and all of the windows and doors and everything were secure. And
wow.
And so, that experience, was really perplexing, but it began opening this door to paranormal experiences.
Sure.
Another time in that same home that was my mother's home, again, me and my younger sister were home, and my parents were out on the road, and it was the summertime, and I happened to be walking by my sister's room, and something again caught my eye, and she had one of these older LP gas stoves that had the ceramic plates in the front, you know, and it would burn gas, and this thing rose up about a good 3.5, 4 feet high. It was quite large, but in the summertime, the gas would be turned off to that, and my sister would be putting a lot of her books and stuff on top of that.
Oh boy!
Range stove, and but as I walked by, something caught my eye, and I stepped into her room, and there was this one book that was unusual. It was a black bound book. It looked like it was bound in leather. It was hand tooled. It appeared quite old, and there was various markings and symbols on that book. And as I opened it up and began thumbing through it, it was almost immediately it was something that I knew was most likely like a satanic Bible or something of that nature. And this thing was probably a good 12 to 14 inches tall, kind of like a family Bible, and a good 12 inches maybe wide, and maybe 3 inches or 4 inches thick. And and immediately when I began thumbing through it, I yelled out for my younger sister, and I called her in there, and I said, "What the heck is this doing in your room?" And she didn't know. She said, that ain't mine. I don't know how it got here, you know, and I hadn't brought it in the house. And I know my mother certainly would not have allowed that in her home if she had seen it. And so I ended up taking it to one of my friends, a good friend of mine's. They had a dairy farm, and they had these barrels that they would burn their trash in, and me and him lit a fire, and we ended up page by page burning and destroying that book by burning it in the fire. And but that was another really unusual experience.
Certainly, I mean that would be that would be intimidating on for anybody. That.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. You know, again, like I said. My family, even though they may not have attending a church on a regular basis or whatever, there would be a Bible and a family Bible in the home, and reading from the Bible at times and stuff. And,
so something like that would not be allowed.
No, not at all. And I got rid of it and destroyed it before my mother got home, in the hopes that, you know, I wouldn't want her thinking that I brought it into the house or whatever. And so, yeah, but it never did reappear, or that I was aware. And so
for those of you just tuning in, so I'm Bishop Long. We're having a part 2 series. We're speaking to our special guest, Stanley Milford Jr., who is the Navajo Ranger. He wrote a phenomenal book that you need to make sure you go pick it up today. The Paranormal Ranger and Navajo's Investigators Search for the Unexplained. So the Paranormal Ranger, the Navajo Investigators Search for the Unexplained. It's a great book. Stanley Milford Jr., we had him on last week, and we're following up on a part 2. So I have to ask, of course, a couple questions. I'm going to combine them, if you will, and then we're going to open it up to the chat for everybody. So, here, these are multiple questions, okay? We'll get to that, Philip, afterwards. So we'll discuss that afterwards. What drove you? So first of all, do you believe in ghosts? Obviously, Bigfoot, UFOs. What about witchcraft? And besides that, obviously the book and the stove situation. Can you also talk about some other paranormal encounters that you've had? So, do you believe in ghosts? What are ghosts? What do you think Bigfoots are? What are UFOs? Do you believe in witchcraft? And can you talk a little bit more about your own paranormal supernatural experience?
Sure. So, all of the Navajo Rangers, for the most part, at the time that I was at the department, all of our Rangers would go through the Federal Police Academy, either through one of the federal established basic police academies, or like I did, I went through the U.S. Indian Police Academy, which was also at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. And you're trained in all aspects of law enforcement and criminal investigation. And so having that background as a criminal investigator, both me and John was even more extensive in his criminal investigation training because he actually attended the Criminal Investigation Academy in Glencoe, Georgia, where there's also established FLETC, or Federal Law Enforcement Training Center facility. And so we were both trained in criminal investigation and criminal investigation techniques. And so as an investigator, when you go into an investigation, it's not about believing in things. It's about really, you're going into an investigation with an unbiased approach or unbiased attitude or thoughts about, you want to be impartial, approach things from an impartial standpoint or view of these things. And you're simply going in to observe and collect and document, whether that's with photography or video or other means, and you're documenting and compiling information into a report.
Sure.
And you're letting that report speak for itself. So you're basically there to collect the evidence. You're not there to believe in whatever it is. And in this situation of investigation of the paranormal, you're not going into it believing in ghosts, believing in Bigfoot or UFOs or witchcraft and that kind of thing. You're allowing the collection of that evidence.
So after investigating so many years as you have in the supernatural, the paranormal, does the evidence then support the belief or the idea that ghost, Bigfoot, UFOs, witchcrafts exist?
Well, for me, having witnessed those coins appear out of thin air, I've repeatedly witnessed that. So with my own eyes. So I know that phenomenon does exist.
Okay.
And your most knowledgeable scientists couldn't sway me any different. I know what I witnessed, and others witnessed the same kind of thing. So I do know it exists. I've witnessed one of these things that people refer to as a skinwalker or shapeshifter, a physical manifestation of what people are referring to as a skinwalker. I've seen that with my own eyes. And so again, it's not something that science could sway me. Oh, that doesn't exist. It was just that was a figment of your imagination, which is BS, because I've seen it with my own eyes. I know it exists. The same with seeing an object in the sky that maneuvers and outperforms any type of known aircraft and technology that we have. And so I've seen these things with my own eyes. I've seen the thing that people refer to as a Bigfoot using night vision equipment and thermal equipment. I've seen it. And so it's not a matter of believing. I've witnessed these things with my own eyes and documented them. And so
someone's asking on Facebook, I believe it is Michael. Michael's asking, have you ever seen, I think it's a Wawila, it's a term, I think it's for Lakota, the Sioux. I think it's a Sioux language. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, it's primarily, it's like it's a playful water spirit, or people refer to this as like even fairies. And so, have you ever experienced anything like this at all?
I've experienced orbs on various occasions. Orbs, or a ball of light, can vary in different sizes, and they are observed in a number of different types of phenomenon. They can occur during hauntings. They can occur during witchcraft-related cases, Bigfoot cases, UFO cases, and so they vary. And I've heard references to what people call little people or fairies, or and the correlation with these orbs. So sure. I've witnessed the orbs. I haven't actually physically observed the little people that, you know, I've heard people make references to me about them. The Hopi, you know, I've talked to people from the Hopi tribe that have talked about it. I've talked to people over in the UK when I was there, talking to people that talk about fairies and little people. And so it's kind of like the Bigfoot thing. It's a global, international phenomenon. People experience these things worldwide.
For those of you on TikTok, I've opened the chat up for everyone. So those of you who are interested, you can ask questions. I will not immediately be able to ask, because if he's in the middle of answering, I'm not going to interrupt, but I will try to type in your questions. There is a question, two questions about, let's go ahead and discuss that. What are your views on shadow people? And have you ever seen what people refer to as mermaids?
I've actually seen the shadow phenomenon, or shadow entity. There has been, that I recall, there's been 3 incidents with entities at the foot of my bed. And one of them was seeing what is referred to as the smaller gray alien of about 3.5 feet tall. I woke up in a state of sleep paralysis, although the bedroom lights in my room were on. I could observe, you know, all the details of the bedroom, but I did observe this entity standing at the foot of my bed, but I couldn't move. And I was, at one point I was freed from that paralysis state and leaped out of my bed, but at the moment that I was released from that paralysis, this entity was gone. And I looked about the home and my room, and there was no other than this really really extreme odor, nauseating odor. That was the only thing that remained in the home for a little while after that experience. And but I've seen, in another occasion at a different time, I've seen one of the larger gray entities or beings standing in that same spot. And then also later a dark shadow entity in that position, kind of humanoid, but not clearly defined, just a kind of like a floating mass in that same location, kind of like what is depicted as a Grim Reaper kind of thing, standing there. And
do you know? Now, someone's asking, do you know the origin of the skinwalker? How would you define its origin? Is it interdimensional being? I mean, how would you describe it from your experience?
From my knowledge, these entities or beings are actually come from a human person that is practicing black witchcraft. So they're practicing witchcraft, and they're gaining the ability to change form into these creatures or entities that people refer to as a skinwalker. They're using some ability to change form. It was told to me that long ago this ability was known, and it was practiced within times of war, where it was a tactic that was used against the enemies of the Navajo. But at times Navajos were in conflict with Spanish and Mexican people, various other tribes in the region. There was conflict with the Utes and with the Apaches and others, and this was a means of traveling great distances into enemy camps for certain reasons. And so but it's changed over the years to that of there's no other purpose than evil purpose today for people using that. But it is very similar to that of Satanism, the practice of Satanism to gain certain abilities and power and things like that. But for those that practice that, there is an extremely high price to pay to be able to practice that and change form and stuff like that. Yeah.
Someone is asking about, you didn't know that a bishop could perform an exorcism. Actually, that's where priests receive their faculties from a bishop. So without the priest having a bishop, they would not be able to have the faculties. So certainly a bishop is a priest, and so most certainly can absolutely perform exorcism if that is the ministry that they're called to do. So anyway, but let me ask you, someone was asking about Mothman. And have you ever experienced what you would define as Mothman, and what do you think this Mothman is?
Well, I've definitely read on the phenomenon of Mothman and other entities like that. And if you consider how infinite and vast our universe is, that there is the possibility of other cultures and other races of beings in other parts of our universe. And that if these technologies that these civilizations possess are, as some people speculate, are far in advance of the human race as far as technologies, coming and going to Earth through portals and other things like that, other dimensions into our physical world. There could be an infinite number of entities and beings that come to our world, and extraterrestrial civilizations and things of that nature. And so things like the Mothman and other beings that have been witnessed in modern times, these could be just like what I mentioned earlier with the creation story. These could be actually references to other beings from other worlds and other civilizations coming into our world. We encounter them, we experience these things and seeing stuff, and then they can be crossing back over through some other portal or dimension or whatever means they're using to come into our physical world. Sure.
And for those of you who are new here to the channel, again, thanks for putting that in there for our moderators. Folks, today's Paranormal Friday, and so we very, very rarely have guests on, but we have a very special guest on. His name is Stanley Milford Jr. He is a Navajo Ranger. He, of course, has served as a Ranger over 23 years. And he was, he's obviously has his experience is vast. So we have Bible study every Sunday and Wednesday. We've been doing it for about 20 years. Every Sunday and Wednesday. And of course we have night prayer. I've been doing that for 20 years. So that's at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we certainly talk about Christianity and Jesus quite often. But today it's our paranormal show where we have a special guest on, where we learn from his walk of life and his culture, because we have to be culturally respective of one another. I think it's very important. That's something that it seems to be lost, I think, in our society today. So let me ask you this question: what led you to writing the book? Which, by the way, you need to, guys, go get this book. It really is a fantastic book. I strongly encourage it. I purchased it. It's really great. Again, it's called The Paranormal Ranger: A Navajo Investigator's Search for the Unexplained. The author is Stanley Milford Jr. So then what led up to you writing the book? Did you have an interest in writing? How did that come about?
So first, I happen to come from two families of avid readers. Both my father and mother were passionate readers, and many of my family on both sides were avid readers, passionate readers. And my father had a small library of books, and my mother had a collection of books. And as a child, my father bought me and my sister a set of Encyclopedia Britannica encyclopedias, and sometimes I would be just sitting at night reading those encyclopedias. Yeah. And so along with books like magazines like National Geographic or Popular Mechanics, I had access to these books. And so early on, I developed an interest in reading. And as a Navajo Ranger, when I would be conducting these intriguing and amazing paranormal supernatural investigations, I would be making personal notes on these observations of the strange and otherworldly activities. And so it, I've always had a very curious mind, even as a child. At Christmas time, I might be receiving a little toy robot as a gift or something. But a lot of times I would be in the bedroom with the screwdriver trying to take it apart to see how it walked or whatever, and just having that curiosity. And even in school, biology and things like that, and seeing how things worked, and just that natural curiosity. So mine was kind of extreme. So
what is that? Is there a Navajo, as far as is there a Navajo view on people who are psychic mediums, using divination, tarot cards? Is there an overview of kind of like, obviously the Christian faith would say that's wrong. So primarily, right. but not every Christian believes that. So, but the majority of Christians say right. that is wrong. So is there the same view with the Navajo, or is it more open-minded? How does that work?
When it comes to the traditional culture of the Navajo, one of the primary peoples within the community is what is known as a medicine man. And this is a traditional practitioner and healer, and so plays a very important role within the culture. And so things related to various taboos, things like death and witchcraft and these kind of things. Those things, for the average Navajo, you don't mess with that. That's not something that that you dabble in, or it's left to the medicine men or woman to deal with those kind of things. A medicine man traditionally and originally was, you would be a child and you would be chosen to become a medicine man, and you would be raised throughout your life, your childhood and teen years and into young adulthood and adulthood, learning all of the traditional healing practices using herbs and the different ceremonies and practices with the Navajo. There are, like on one particular healing ceremony, there may be hundreds of songs involved, and they are very in-depth and precise. The Navajo language is far more precise than the English language. You may have 5 different words that represent one English word, you know.
Now would these be would these be the Hatalis?
It would be, yeah.
Okay, and so I read a little bit on because someone asked a question about a Navajo exorcist or other Navajo exorcist, and so basically, from my understanding, and just correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Hatalis, like if a person is experiencing troubling, or if they're troubled by what might be considered evil spirits or disharmony, the Hatali may perform like ceremonies or rituals to restore balance. Right. Is that correct?
Right. Well, Hatatli is a medicine man, and it is his responsibility and his abilities to be able to bring that person back into what is known as hajo, or balance, in every aspect of their life. And so, yeah, you are correct, and that's the role that the medicine man plays in bringing this person back into harmony.
So it's all about balance and harmony then.
Yeah, in every aspect, which that is taught, you know, throughout a person's life, whether it's exercise and work, physical exercise, and nutrition and eating right, and your spirituality, all of these things, there needs to be a balance maintained, you know, from trying to be in the middle of 2 extremes, you know.
Sure. So what? Okay, so you served as a ranger for over 23 years. What in the world then? I mean, the question has to be asked: what led up to the Rangers Department creating a special projects unit that you were in, and that you were investigating the supernatural?
Well, so the special projects unit was actually formed in advance of the investigation of the paranormal. Was just a part of being within that unit and the responsibility. Jonathan Dover and I led that section, and we conducted dignitary protection, and we were SWAT team leaders, special weapons and tactics leaders, tactical operators, wide variety, special investigations. And so there was a wide variety of responsibilities besides the added responsibility that came later to investigate the paranormal. So there was an event where there was an elderly woman in the Chusca Mountains who had called the department that there was one of these, she referred to it, this thing, describing it like a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, something larger than a man, covered in hair, had stepped over into her sheep corral, picked up one of her sheep and took off with it. And so she called the department, and there was 2 young rangers that were assigned. One of these rangers was essentially a comedian, because everything he did and said was about a joke and laughing and carrying on, and it was just a part of his personality. It's not that he intended to offend people or whatever, but sure. I think he did offend the grandmother, because I think she took it that he wasn't being serious about what her call or claim was. And with the Navajo people, livestock is the primary source of income, and for the Navajo people, it is very serious. So
And this wasn't a bear. So you're saying this was not a bear?
No, this was not a bear. This thing had left tracks in and around the corral, and so anyway, she was offended by this and called the chief up, and she chewed him out, more or less chewed him out, and the chief ended up calling a department-wide meeting, and he basically said, you've chosen a job and taken an oath to help people and protect people. And he said, that's exactly what you're going to do. If you can't do that, you're going to have to find some other means of employment. And
wow.
He said, we're here to help people. And you may not believe in it. You may not understand it when it comes to these kind of cases. But you'll investigate it with the same professionalism and John, and he looked over at me and John, who were sitting there as a part of the special projects unit, working with him quite closely. He looked over at me and John. He said, "And you two are going to oversee this section and these investigations." So it wasn't that John and I were raising our hands to be the Navajo X-Files or anything like that. He assigned us, and we said, "Yes, sir," and that's what we did, and that's how that came to be.
And you've seen a Bigfoot, so you're saying yes, these.
I have, yeah.
Now, okay, so have you started 2
occasions? Yeah.
So have you started? I understand, a second book, and if so, can you give us a little teaser on what we can expect?
Sure. So this first book, it is kind of a bibliography or memoir, as they would call it, in my years of growing up and the influences I had coming into law enforcement, and how this came to fruition to conduct these investigations, and kind of serves more or less like a PSA for the world, in that these phenomenon, I try to convey that these phenomena do exist, and I may not have the answers or explanations for a lot of these things, but it does happen. And that for those people that experience that, we need to be more respectful of their experiences and be more open-minded in supporting them, and because most of the times they're traumatized.
Sure. And
so this book serves in that respect, the first book. The second book that I've written, I've taken a completely kind of a 180-degree approach to it, where this second book is a piece of fiction. And yet it's written and loosely based on an actual investigation that I had conducted that really had a great impact on me. And but I've written it, I've created characters and written it from the standpoint of this central character, and about a paranormal experience. And so it's a completely different style of writing, and it's exciting. It's a new learning experience for me. And so
I'm curious, in your experience with the supernatural and the paranormal, have you ever come across someone that you would identify perhaps as possessed or demonic possessed, or is that something you simply don't believe in?
I have experienced people that encounter people that I felt were in some way had some type of possession. I think it can be, there's a number of different types of possession, whether it's the spirit of a former living human being that, or a ghost or a spirit that can possess a person and their faculties. But at the other times, I think there are other entities, like what people refer to within the Bible, demonic entities that can also possess a person and take over their conscious ability, and their body. And so I think and even I dare say, from what I've heard, there's even the possibility that these things that people refer to as a Bigfoot, has an ability or capability to possess a person. The orbs, for whatever phenomenon is occurring there, can possess a person. And so, yeah, I think there's different types of possessions that occur. And I really feel with the phenomenon we see worldwide today with the mass shootings and that are occurring, I think in a lot of that, it's actual possessions, that's occurring. These things are possessing a person and controlling them and causing them to create these mass killings and things like that.
So let me ask you, do you think now, since we've had a week to think about all these drones that's going around, as obviously the experience of a law enforcement officer, what's your take on this now? So we have had a week to reflect on it. What do you think?
Well, for the department, I was the department's drone operator. And so we had that type of equipment and capability, but it's primarily coming from a civilian market device where you're very limited in flight time for this device. It is primarily a video and photographic piece of equipment. There are some other added features, like thermal equipment and stuff that you can add, but it's primarily a daytime device, which and I know in a lot of the sightings, what we're hearing about are nighttime objects that are flying. And if they are in fact drones, I would dare say they would have to be, the majority would have to be military and or 3-letter agency devices, because the civilian stuff don't have a flight time long enough to keep it in the air for very long. So only the use of these higher tech military type drones can you keep them aloft for any length of time. So, but I do feel that there is a possibility that some of these could be extraterrestrial in nature, and it's actually a extraterrestrial device that is mimicking known craft that are in our atmosphere, like drones, like airplanes. I've witnessed things in my life where I've seen things that were most likely of an extraterrestrial nature, mimicking actual aircraft, but later on performing in a manner that was beyond what is known with fixed wing aircraft or rotary wing aircraft that we know, helicopters.
So you think it's primarily perhaps military, but or U.S. government, but there could be the possibility of UFOs, extraterrestrial activity. So. Wow.
I think just a possibility.
When are you expecting your new book to be coming out?
Well, right now, my first book came out October 1st, and at least for about a month before that, and then following that has been promotion of that book. And so that has been a very active and steady activity almost every day. And whether that's conducting presentation, I did one this past Wednesday for a group on the Navajo Reservation, and a book signing. So I've been very, very busy with that kind of activity, and it has not allowed me to focus like I did on the first book, where there was a really aggressive approach to writing that first book, which it was written within about 8 months. But I've started this, and I may be 25% into this book. I don't think it'd really take me that long if I'm afforded to be able to sit down and get some time just to focus on writing it. So
Okay.
a lot of it is laid out as far as the outline and everything, the structure. So.
Well, Stanley, I want to thank you so much for your willingness to jump on again tonight. You were on last week with us. For those of you who missed it, you can go back and watch it. And I appreciate you certainly being here as well tonight. So thank you so very much for joining us.
I really enjoyed, talking to you and answering some questions from the callers and stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank your audience. I really appreciate being given the opportunity to address, people and their questions. And I always look forward to that. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your program. And so I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good night.
All right, everybody. That was our friend, Stanley Milford. Thank you, Stanley. And we appreciate him being on again tonight. Does a fantastic job. Folks, I want to remind you that you can purchase his book on Amazon. Do not forget that. Make sure. So go to Amazon today, because if you do, you can perhaps you can get the book before Christmas is running around. So if you have a family member that loves the paranormal, the supernatural, you have to get the book. They're going to love it. I really enjoyed the book. It's called The Paranormal Ranger, a Navajo investigator's search for the unexplained. And again, his name is Stanley, Stanley, Milford Jr., Milford. Not everyone know hobby, not everyone, because they're still delivering. So again, go to Amazon, because Amazon is still delivering. I'm aware of the little strike that they're having, but no, they say it's not affecting their delivery, because I just ordered and it's not. But again, it's on Amazon. The Paranormal Ranger, a Navajo investigator's search for the unexplained. So really, it's when I read the book, I was really interested in the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot story, and there in chapter 3, where it talks about it introduces some of the first paranormal investigations that he actually investigated, which talks about a very notable incident involving a Bigfoot sighting. And I'm telling you, this was really because there's so many people who are seeing this. And I also really appreciated the fact that he talks about his early career as a ranger in chapter 2. He does, by the way, a lot of you talk about skinwalkers, and that's in chapter 4. So he really delves into the culture significance of skinwalkers in the Navajo tradition. He even talks about there's personal recounting personal experiences and even community stories. So if you really like skinwalker stories, where does it come from? Well, you got to get chapter 4 is your place. That really is. So anyway, head on over there to Amazon and pick up the book, The Paranormal Ranger, a Navajo investigator's search for the unexplained by Stanley Milford Jr. I really appreciate him taking the time and chatting with us. He didn't have to do it, and so he did it twice actually, which is, I think that's pretty cool. That's really nice. So we thank him very, very much for that. As a matter of fact, I didn't talk to him about this because we ran out of time. But listen to this. This is by Zoe Mitchell. There's an interesting photo making the rounds online that shows what looks like a hairy bipedal means stand on two legs, figure climbing the side of a canyon. Now, many are speculating that the creature could be Bigfoot. So the image is shared earlier this month is claimed to have been taken on a Navajo Nation land. And shortly after the photo appeared, a person claiming to be the nephew of the photographer contacted the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization to share what they say is the story behind it. You can go to X and you can type in RMSO. R as in Robert, M as in Michael, SO, Bigfoot. And there's a picture here. It's a very interesting picture. And so now, according to the nephew, the photo was taken about 2 years ago in a canyon area between the communities of Cornfields and Greasewood, Arizona, on Navajo Nation. So the nephew explained that his aunt had been tending livestock south of their homestead when she heard strange noises coming from the canyon. Curious, she looked over the edge and saw the creature, which looked up at her. And frightened by what she saw, she quickly took a photo and left the place. Now, some doubt the story, the nephew said, so you don't have to believe what I write, and to me, it doesn't matter. All I know is what I've told you is what happened that day. So it is very interesting. If you have not checked out the photo, it's pretty impressive. It's RMSO Bigfoot on X, and you can actually see this bipedal creature walking up the canyon. Those are fascinating stories, because when you get people who are very credible, they have no desire to mislead people. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're just telling a story about what they've experienced. And when you have something like this, I don't know. This is interesting. Mr. Beast. He made his fortune from social media. And I have no idea how much he's made. I don't know. It's none of my business, and I really don't care. But anyway, he's on social media, and he's been very successful, which is good. That's great. He certainly can teach people how to generate income on social media. He's been very successful in doing it. So if he just decides to stop making videos, my goodness, he can teach people how to do this. Well, Mr. Beast is going to spend 100 hours hunting for ghosts inside the pyramids. A lot of people have been, there's people who've been pretty upset about this. This is by TK Randall. So the popular YouTuber and entrepreneur claims to have secured access to film at the iconic monuments. Jimmy Donaldson is his actual real name. More commonly known as Mr. Beast, is certainly no stranger to madcap shenanigans, having arranged all manner of bizarre stunts and challenges for his extremely popular YouTube channel, which, as of writing, has over 337 million subscribers. Anyway, speaking recently on the Beyond the Records podcast with Noah Lyles, he revealed that for one of his upcoming videos, he will be spending a period of 100 hours hunting for ghosts and spirits within the labyrinth corridors and chambers of the pyramids in Egypt. He says, we got all 3 of the pyramids of Egypt for 100 hours, he said. I'm going to do a video where they're going to let me explore anywhere I want to in the pyramids for 100 hours. I wonder how much that cost him. The event will see him and his team gain access to areas of the pyramids that are usually closed off to the public, and he will record every second of his time there. He says, I'm so excited because there are also all these secret corridors deep inside. He says, I don't know what to expect. And to look for evidence of the paranormal in the pyramids, the team will be equipped with a variety of common ghost hunting gadgets that they will use throughout the exploration of the structures. And while getting to see every nook and cranny of the inside of the pyramids will certainly be interesting, Mr. Beast's claims concerning the event have been subject to quite a bit of scrutiny. And according to the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism, the YouTuber hadn't rented out the pyramids, but had in fact only been given permission to film there. So some people have also raised concerns regarding his use of the pyramids at all. So anyway, as for the video itself, it says we don't currently know when it will be published. You can expect to see it appearing on his YouTube channel in the near future. So there we go, guys. Apparently, he has been given permission, which is very rare. Oh, no. I think it's already been done. I think the investigation has already been complete. But no, I wouldn't be nervous about investigating the pyramids. I think for me, it would be very interesting to learn from the culture, their faith, their belief in the afterlife, the belief perhaps if spirits still exist. I think that would be fascinating. But I would not be intimidated at all. I would be more interested. I'd be more like, cool, let's check it out. For the historical. I mean, just historically speaking alone, it would be pretty amazing. USOCC.org. That's if you want to know more about the website, the church. Okay. Yeah, we'll just put it. Anyway, so there we go. Let me turn this off. So that would be pretty amazing. I mean, to be able to do that would be interesting to see what happens. Oh yeah, I would absolutely. So yeah, all right. The case that I worked is it was successful. It was aggressive. I'm not going into it, but it was. Thankfully, it wasn't one that required multiple sessions. Sometimes it does, and when you perform exorcisms, you don't know. You never know how long it could take. You don't know how many sessions it could take. So yeah, I don't think it's appropriate right now. I'm not going to get into a conversation about what happened. I mean, I think this is Christmas, so we need to focus on that. So anyway, there we go. But listen to this. This is interesting. This is by T.K. Randall as well. A mysterious man keeps showing up at a road accident scene in Nebraska. So police are currently trying to track down a strange man who keeps showing up at the scene of car crashes. A mysterious stranger is at the center of an ongoing criminal investigation in Nebraska, where he has been connected to multiple road accidents and is now thought to have been directly causing them. One of the accidents involved Garrison Beach and his wife, Skylar, who left the road on Highway 36 out of Bennington recently after swerving to avoid hitting a large piece of metal that had somehow ended up in the middle of the road. After exiting their vehicle and making their way back to the highway, they were met by a mysterious man who seemed to have appeared out of nowhere and who proceeded to offer them assistance. This incident echoes at least 3 others to have occurred on the same stretch of highway, each involving an anomalous object in the middle of the road, and each involving the same strange individual appearing out of the blue to offer assistance to the victims. Police investigating the case now believe that the man in question likely caused the accidents in the first place. Says, quote, they're the first person there to help and call 911, so in their mind they're a hero, but they are causing these crashes, said Captain Eric Sellers of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. Things would go on to take an even stranger turn when an unidentified individual believed to be the same man called into a local news station pretending to be Garrison Beach and asked that the story about the incident be taken down. So in total, he left 3 voicemails requesting the same thing. Quote, I just think it's crazy that we're at a point of someone calling in and impersonating me, the officer, on the phone and trying to get the story taken down. He said that clearly wasn't me making the call. The police investigation into the mystery remains open. See, that's insanity. So, I mean, it seems true that he's probably the one causing the accidents and then pops up and, oh, let me help. I'm help. I don't know about that one. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. That's insane. You know, one thing that I've always liked to speak to, thank you for everybody. Thank you for sharing the live, by the way. It's interesting to hear what people with high IQs, what they think, just in general, on particular subjects, just to kind of pick their mind, if you will. Well, this is an interesting one. This is, again, by T.K. Randall. The world's smartest man offers a theory on what happens when we pass away. Now listen to this. It's interesting. The 72-year-old Chris Langan is considered something of a genius thanks to his IQ of between 190 and 210. Officially considered to be the world's smartest man, Langan has been using his superior intellect to develop what he calls the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, otherwise known as CTMU. Now, he maintains that when we pass away, we transition from one form to another, or in other words, we move to a different plane of existence that we are unable to access during life. Now, he says, death is the termination of your relationship with your particular physical body that you have at the present time. He said on the theories of everything, well, we know that. He says, quote, when you are retracted from this reality, that means when you're taken away, you go back toward the origin of reality. Okay, you can be provided with a substitute body, another kind of terminal body that allows you to keep on existing. So in other words, you go back to where you started from, you can get another body, and there you go. Now, when this happens, he argues, you may lose all memory of who you were previously. He says, nothing goes out of existence in the math, he said. Your memories can always be pulled back out, but there's no reason to do that usually. He says, why cling to memories of a world in which you are no longer in, which is true. So there are certain automatic psychological things that happen on death, at the moment of death. So Langdon also suggests that we may reincarnate at a limitless number of times. He says, arguably, all of your lifetimes, if you were to be reincarnated again and again, all of those reincarnations are meta simultaneous. Well, the problem with reincarnation is you never ever reach the ultimate level. So it doesn't make sense because you don't, obviously you're trying to not make the mistakes that you made in your previous life, but you don't know your previous mistakes. So therefore it seems kind of null and void. It doesn't make sense at all. Reincarnation is supposed to, so that you could reach the ultimate of nirvana. Well, how can you reach that, the ultimate highest state of consciousness, if you don't know the mistakes you made in your previous life? Then you're doomed to repeat them again. It's like a washing machine. And that's a problem. See, that's that. I mean, if nirvana is what you're trying to reach, the highest stage of consciousness. Okay, fine, let's do that. And the way you get there is you have to reincarnated, recycled, so that you can learn from the mistakes in your previous life, but you have no memory of mistakes that you've made, so therefore you're doomed to repeat it, so it doesn't make sense. And quite honestly, I think the problem with reincarnation is I want to get to heaven because I believe in heaven. So why on God's green earth and the universe, if I'm there in heaven, and I meet St. Peter and my family is there and God is there and saying, welcome home, tell me, please, someone explain to me why I'm going to say, listen, God, I love you, but I'm going to go back and do this all over again. That sounds like a hell of a good time. What? No. Who would do that? If the ultimate goal is to get to heaven for eternity so that you no longer experience pain and suffering, disease, your body doesn't deteriorate, then why on earth would I go back to repeat it? That makes no sense. See, that to me is preposterous. It's erroneous. It's fallacious. It just simply doesn't make sense. So that's the problem with it. Now, people say, well, do you think that it can be possible? I think anything is possible, but I think it's problematic. Because if you look at logic, just logic 101, I mean, the premise of A, B, and C being the conclusion. Well, I mean, if the premise one, reincarnation is available to those who made mistakes previously. The second statement is reincarnation so that you don't repeat the same mistake. And of course, the conclusion is you can reach nirvana. Well, the problem is number two. Your premise is fallacious, is erroneous, because you have no memory of your previous life. So therefore, you'll never reach nirvana. That's the point. See, that's the logic behind it. You'll never reach it. It's like the little the stick, the carrot on the stick. You'll never reach it, never, unless you know your previous mistakes, so that you learn from them and do not repeat them. Well, Bishop Long, how do you know that it's not innate? It's not innate. So when I was innate, meaning that you knew what you did in your previous life. Well, it's not, because Dr. Marcel Fredericks, brilliant sociologist, and this guy was talking about brilliant. He was also a medical doctor, sociologist, a medical doctor, psychologist. I mean, this guy was top of the line, a Harvard graduate. His name is Dr. Marcel Fredericks. And when I went to Loyola University in Chicago, I was so honored to be taught by him, because he taught me sociology. He created what's called the SCP module, Society, Cultural, Personality. And the SCP module is what defines the id, defines the person. It's all intertwined. So therefore, implying that you know what you did previously is incorrect, because the SCP module says that you are influenced by your society, your culture, and your personality. So in order for you to have something innate of your previous mistakes, then you would have that society, culture, personality. Everything would have to be in alignment, and it's not. That's not the way reality works. So I just think that reincarnation is problematic. It makes no sense to me. Okay. Yeah, because the whole point is going to heaven, and you're there. Well, how would you go back? Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd like to go back. That sounds like a fun time. I've heard that the theory. Some say when passing on, don't go to the light as you're being reborn in a hospital. I've heard that theory. I disagree with it fundamentally, completely, Punky Cat. And I tell you why. Because there are people that were clinically dead and who did actually go to the light, and they came back and experienced heaven. What they identified certainly as heaven. You can go to a phenomenal site called nderf.org. ND as in dog, erf.org, where people have clinically died and they saw the light, they went towards it, and they were in heaven. I've heard of that theory before. I don't think that it's valid in its argument. Now, this is also by TK Rander. By the way, for those of you who think that the earth is flat, I'm so sorry to tell you the truth. The earth is not flat. I'm sorry, friends. I'm sorry. And you're not going to like this story. For those of you who are convinced that the earth is flat, even though the entire universe is made in spherical objects, but nonetheless, the earth is... Jeannie. I'm telling you, there are so many people that truly believe the earth is flat. They really do. Listen to this. A flat earther, that's what they call it, flat earther, that means people who actually believe that their earth is flat, eats humble pie after going on a mission to Antarctica. All right. See, the belief is, for the flat earthers, they believe that when you get to Antarctica, that's it. That the wall that is there, you cannot go over it. It sounds like, a show. But you can't go over that wall, because if you do, you'll just tumble right out in space. Anyway, I digress. Here it is. Pastor Will Duffy recently took several flat Earth believers to Antarctica in an effort to prove them wrong. Earlier this month, of course, the TK Rander reported on the final experiment and Antarctic expedition arranged by Colorado pastor Will Duffy in an effort to prove once and for all that the Earth is definitely not flat. The freezing southern continent has long been at the center of debate because some proponents, some say that the idea that the Earth is flat, believe that there's a giant wall of ice that is there, very similar to the Game of Thrones, marking the edge of the world. That's it. And they also maintain that the day and night cycle is the same in Antarctica as it is away from the poles, even though Antarctica sees periods of several months of darkness and several months of daylight. Anyway, the difficulties inherent in accessing Antarctica to check this for themselves, they argue, is also evidence of the world's government cover-up of the truth about the Earth's flat nature, because it's very difficult to get to Antarctica. It's very expensive. It says, quote, "I created the final experiment to end this debate once and for all," Duffy said. After we go to Antarctica, no one has to waste any more time debating the shape of the Earth. Well, fast forward to the present day, and now Duffy's Antarctica expedition has actually taken place, with the Colorado pastor having taken 4 flat earthers along for the ride. It wasn't long after they arrived when it became apparent that what they believed was simply not true. Well, imagine that. Who knew? He says, quote, "All right, guys, sometimes you are wrong in life," said prominent flat earther Gene Campanella. Now, Jared Campanella, it was a strong proponent really strong, absolutely believed that the earth was flat. He said, quote, I thought there was no 24-hour sun. In fact, I was pretty sure of it. But I respect Will Duffy for being a stand-up guy, at least in the way he kept saying it was true. I kept saying it wasn't. Don't listen to my beliefs or my opinion. It shouldn't matter to you. But at least you should be able to accept that the sun does exactly what these guys said, as far as circles the southern continent. So whether this in itself will be enough to persuade the most diehard earth flatters to completely abandon the idea that the earth is flat, however, remains to be seen. So anyway, you can go online and you can check it out. It's on YouTube, and Flat Earthers Debunked. So you can type in pastor that went there, and there you go. So it's a Will Duffy. It's Colorado pastor Will Duffy went to Antarctica, and I'm sorry, but for those of you who believe that the earth is flat, it's not. Oh, sorry, it's not. Now, some people I don't understand. Yeah, it's well, I know it's okay. All right. So let me just there we go. Someone's asking me a question here. Yeah, some people are really they're hardcore about this. They're absolutely. No. There's not biblical reference of this. You're taking scripture out of context, completely taking it out of context. First of all, yeah, no. It's why we're not in a simulation. Okay, there's this theory that we all live in a simulation, that we exist in a simulation, that this right here is just a simulation. That, in other words, we're like the Sims. Do you remember the Sims, where you can create these Sims and you can give them complete autonomy, or you can restrict that and they won't do anything unless you tell them what to do, like go walk over here or go over there, or you can give the autonomy of 10, which means basically they can do whatever they want. They have complete autonomy. So there is a theory that we live in a simulation, that in fact there is some greater intelligence that in fact is doing this and telling us, it's like, okay. And there's some people that's really legit, 100% that believes this. So let me just address that very quickly, because anyway, I don't know why sometimes, but anyway, I'll talk about it. First of all, the technological limitations of it would be problematic. For reality to be a simulation, there would be a need to be an unimaginably advanced technological system that's able to simulate every aspect of the universe with extreme precision. And by the way, given our understanding of computational limits and physical laws, the energy and computational resources required for such a vast and detailed simulation, inconceivably large. And I think this is also very important to recognize too. I think the complexity of the consciousness makes it an invalid argument that we live in a simulation. See, human consciousness and the complexity, even of the biological system, they are incredibly intricate. And creating a simulation that perfectly replicates conscious experience would require not only massive computational power, but also an understanding of consciousness beyond what we currently grasp. I mean, you'd have to be a godlike state. Then the argument that runs that if consciousness were easy to reproduce or simulate, then we might not have already achieved it at smaller scales, which we have not. So that argument is just unbelievable. And I think the whole idea, it's false. I think it's false. So there's there's the absence of anomalies as well. See, a simulated universe might contain glitches or signs of artificiality. Now, some people say, aha, well, here's a glitch here in the Matrix. You hear this all the time. Similarly how like video games have glitches or something like this or error. But our universe, here's the problem. Our universe adheres to the laws of physics consistently and without observable anomalies that would suggest, underlining artificial programming, limitations to errors. So it's incorrect. I want to talk briefly about this. I've seen this. This really is, I don't know, people. Someone explain this to me, please, because I'm confused. And I have seen this individual. And I find that what he does is problematic. And I wasn't going to talk about this until he starts talking about God and that we are created beings by the Anunnaki. So in other words, the Anunnaki were alien beings that were intelligent and that they manipulated the DNA, the genes, etc., and that they were not supposed to do that. And we basically were created by them. This is incorrect. It is incorrect on every level, but I find it offensive because there's an individual. He's a famous celebrity. He's an outer space expert, communicator with ETs, predicted that the Earth will learn that we are not alone within 3 years. Okay, fine. So there is a Bashar, as he is warning, that he connects to this ET, is warning mankind that ETs will descend and prove that there is no doubt that we are not alone. Okay, you don't need to connect to Bashar. We understand that. But I think Bashar, by the way, who hails from an alternate dimensional planet, that's allegedly located 500 light years away, communicated the bombshell information with Anka. So here's the problem. It seems like Bashar knows all the answers, every answer to every question. It's almost like to a deity status. That's problematic in of itself. But I think when people were asking about the creation story and the dismissing God creating us in His image, that rather we are created by the Anunnaki, I think that's just total. That's. I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but people have been asking me about this, and I've been quiet about it because I don't like to. Be public or try to discredit anyone. But I have to say, look, when you're starting to spread that type of misinformation, that's enough. No, seriously, that's enough. If you want to say that you're channeling ET and what's planets or whatever, you want to talk about planets and solar system, that's fine. But when you start talking about theology and interjecting heresy, then as clergy, I'm responsible to say, no. I'm inclusive and I'm welcoming to everybody. When we start getting into heretical teachings, I have to say, no. This goes too far. And I'm sure he's a nice guy. This guy who does this, he seems to be a very nice guy. But I just think that when you start stepping on the toes of God, now you're kind of going too far. You've gone too far. And as clergy, I think it's my responsibility to speak up about when I see heresy, and that's when I see it. So I'm very, I have a problem with many of the things that he is teaching. So there we go. There are so many. I didn't even get to think here. Okay. Goodness gracious, it's almost over. No. No, it was not. No. By the way, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. For those of you who want to know, I will be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Judy Ann and with Miss Wilma. We'll have a good time. We'll enjoy and we'll have a good time and enjoy ourselves. And then Sunday we're here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, Lilith, she's found in many mythologies. There is no evidence to suggest that she was a real historical person ever. Now, you're getting confused also with ancient Mesopotamian mythology, because Lilith does appear in some Sumerian, Akkadian, even Babylonian myths as a demon or spirit. that's associated with like storms or diseases. Now, in the Jewish folklore, Lilith is often portrayed as a demon, and it's first actually mentioned by a name in a list of demon names in the 8th century BC. She's famously linked to the alphabet of Ben Sira. It's a medieval text that describes her as Adam's first wife. And she was created equally from the earth, who defies him, leaves the garden, and due to dispute over equality. The Hebrew Bible makes it, when you talk about Lilith in Isaiah chapter 34, verse 14, people will say that was because it's often translated as screech owl or night creature, but that doesn't mean Lilith. So I just think that when we see it, it really is in Jewish folklore that I believe is adapted from the ancient Mesopotamian mythology. Okay, for those of you on Spreaker, I'm going to say good night to you guys. I can't believe it's already done. I'll stay with TikTok for just a little longer, but my goodness gravy, it goes by too fast. I want to remind everybody that we're going to be here tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Spreaker and TikTok for night prayer. I hope that all of you have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful, just celebrating with your time, your time with family and friends. We'll be here, of course, on Wednesday, Christmas Day, for Bible study at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 25th. We'll be here on the 24th on Spreaker and TikTok for night prayer. My friends, I tell you all the time that your value does not decrease based on a troll's inability or refusal to see your worth. Remember, you're priceless, and don't let any troll tell you or convince you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Rumble, KGRADB Radio. Merry Christmas. God bless.